Okay, everyone, welcome to this webinar here from Tempe, or this LinkedIn live event. Welcome to those of you who listen in right now, and also those of you who pick this video up afterwards. If you don't know us, I'm Christian. I'm CEO and founder of Tempe. And today I brought along Peter Sonneholm, who's also one of my co-founders, and he is he's a senior sales engineer in Tempe, working with a lot of the customers when things get complex and they need to understand some of the complicated issues around using data and intelligence and analytics so that they can really elevate and lift and reap the potential of that. Welcome, Peter. Good to have you here.
Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for having me here for this webinar. I look forward to the discussion.
Yeah, and the story today is about customer stories from the agentic frontline, as it's mentioned, about data and intelligence, how they become strategic resources. And we are going to give you some customer stories about how leading e-commerce and supply chain players are turning intelligence into to action and to make it a strategic asset and not just data and a cost center. And I'll just briefly start introducing this concept for all of you, and that's how we see the world of data and intelligence. And basically, so this is some of the things that we're going to go through today. We have two different dimensions here, and one is about the how siloed or inward-looking, you can say, the data system that the company operates is in, from being very individual, departmentalized, and all the way to the ability to leverage the entire global data ecosystem. And the other dimensions is when things go from being descriptive to being predictive. Everybody can tell about what happens now or did happen yesterday, but what will happen tomorrow. And then, of course, you ask yourself, why is this important nowadays? Like, why do I want to listen into a webinar about that and learn what to do? And the thing is that over the last year, Peter and me, to be honest, we are analytics geeks. We've been nerding around in this field for a decade or even more. But now the world is picking up on leveraging intelligence and data. And especially what we are seeing right now, there are two really forceful movements going on. One is agentic protocols, and the other thing is what's happening in the e-commerce and the commerce space, where agentic protocols are becoming really important. It's called, for instance, UCP, United Commerce Protocol, that Google launched earlier this year, along with a lot of players in the e-commerce space. And the thing is that it enables all of the different data systems to play together. So all of those that use Google, that connect their own internal systems, that have servers that connect with Shopify or many other different kind of systems that give the ability to connect the internal world with the world around them, so that they can communicate with other data sources through these protocols. And one of the big changes that is going on is that this will mean that consumers will automatically could go in and use an agent that will want to go in and pick up a shirt or shoes or whatever it is that you need when you need that as a consumer. So when this happens, if you are not connected to this, and it is happening now, so sorry, if you're not connected to this ecosystem and to this intelligence layer, then as an e-commerce shop, you're going to have an issue, because the agents that will shop on me and Peter's and everybody else's behalf will not be able to go in and find the goods that you have on the site, or they will see that too little information, so they don't know whether it's the right color or the right size. And also, if you work further up the supply chain, for instance, in last mile or within transportation, the thing is that it will not be able to tell you how is that going to be shipped, So, and the agent doesn't handle things like a human that say, okay, I don't care. No, they actually want to make sure that it's going to be shipped to your home or my home Thursday evening where it fits me the best, or the locker I typically use because I want to use this during the weekend, the good that I asked for. So this means the purchases are made more and more automatically. So, and there are two outcomes of this. Either you are as an organization reactive to it, or you're going to be proactive. And what this overall concept here shows is that if you want to be proactive on this, you need to make sure that your data and your data system is tied together internally. So all the data that you need to be able to have available is something that you have under your control. But at the same time, for you to be able to navigate this world where all the other players have, and we are talking millions of e-commerce shops and hundreds of thousands of brands and billions of consumers, then you actually have to be able to connect that to the world outside to be able to make good decisions and execute good decisions. And that's what we're going to dig into a bit more today, because executing good decisions automatically means that your company can really grow market presence, sales, profitability, and all these kind of things. So that's what this is about. We're looking into how do you move from the lower left corner, where data is seen as a cost, to the upper right corner here. That's the introduction to the concept. Maybe Peter, just briefly, where do we see our customers today?
We see customers in all four quadrants, all four of those squares today. Luckily, we see more and more moving away from the cost center, simply because also we see the ones that are very siloed, are not using advanced analytics. They're struggling to find the right strategy, find the right go-to-market approach. So they are struggling. So we see more and more moving towards having a tactic potential today. They have connected to the global data ecosystem, as we call it, but maybe they're still working towards getting more predictive, more prescriptive, if we want to go really advanced, so they can become a true agentic resource. I would say that in the top right corner, which we have labeled strategic agentic resource, we mainly see pilots right now. The first trials trying to explore this and build it now.
But let's dig into it, Peter. So we're going to move along these four quadrants here. And the first thing we're going to jump into is the lower left corner here, where we see data as a cost center, and we think that it has generally low business value. So Peter, how are people and our customers in this area, how are they working with data and insights?
One of the first very obvious signals that we work with someone who is in this quadrant is that they work with Excel files. We can see that it's split up data, they're not connected, and data is not really used to collect insights and give direction for the organization. So one example of this could be that we have a sales team that wants to find leads, wants to get new customers, so they download a whole company list and just start calling from the top to the bottom, without any segmentation, without any consideration of where do they actually have something to offer to the specific customer. So they have unfocused outreach. The outreach is not coordinated between teams. It's not specific for the individual company or for the individual segment. So what we hear from them is very, very clear. We hear low hit rates on the sales teams. We see high churn because the customers they do get in do not actually fit very well with the organization's capabilities.
And that's why we also call it a cost center, right?
Yeah, exactly. So one thing we could hear is that they compare the cost of data analytics to a regular employee in a sales team. So instead of buying data, instead of buying analytics, instead of getting insights and coordinating, they could also get half a full-time employee to make more phone calls, even though not thinking about that person's activities is not very efficient. So yeah.
And one of the problems is also here that we see that the customers, they don't basically, when it's done like this, they don't have a one source of the truth. So this means that the customer data could be different in different parts of the organization, or how do you calculate ROI or profitability or and everything, because it's scattered around the organization.
Yeah, true. One thing that's very clear is that instead of taking the data and working with it to figure out which segments they're actually good at, they just do it completely random. And we see, because it's not coordinated, we have different teams working with the same potential customers, if we're talking with uh, in that sense.
Yeah.
It's a horrible place to be.
Yeah, and also Peter, now I know that you work a lot with our logistics customers and including last mile and stuff like that. But it's also something that we see in retail and e-commerce further down the supply chain. And I think some of the things that we see there is that then you sit and work with an LLM, ChatGPT individual as a person and pulling out things, making stuff. You do your lists of, manually which product categories should we work with. You maybe use ChatGPT or even still Google to find out what is the price of some of the competitors out there. And the thing is that that it becomes a difficult task to handle everything and understand, like, how does the entire market move around your products and your brand.
Mm.
But then let's try to move on to the next one, because some are also on this level a bit more advanced, right? And that's what we call agentic optimization quadrant. But also that we become more predictive here. So what is this all about?
Yes. What we see here is that we see, even though the data is not fully connected, when you mentioned the one source of truth, we haven't achieved that in the organization, but we have small pockets of very skilled teams that are starting to work with data. They're starting to extract value. So in a retail world, that could be a web shop that is looking at which products are really performing well, or which combinations of products, what should our pricing be. Uh, can we make some simple predictions on the internal data? So we do start to see some very advanced use of data here. There could also be APIs or advanced modeling. But the value created here is still limited, because the insights, the data is maybe perhaps not fully connected to the rest of the organization. Where we had an example of a customer also within last mile, where they, with some really advanced use of data, they extracted list using APIs and put models on top. But the value creation in the end was limited, because the commercial team, who was ultimately, who was the end user of these insights, could not really translate that into any value. It was not really connected to their needs or to the jobs to be done. So it's not, the value is still not fully realized in this place, but it's a much better place than we see with cost center. There's a willingness to improve here.
Yeah, and you can also say you can use it for, like, kind of we call it agentic optimization for a reason. So we think that you can actually use it to improve stuff, and you can even have agents running on siloed internal data sets to make sure that now we see that this product category is declining in sales, for instance. Okay, let's reduce the price on that automatically. So maybe you still get them off the shelf, right? So in that respect, you can optimize it. Or it could also mean that if you are a last mile carrier, you can see that one of your customers is one of the web shops that you serve. They're shipping less, you can say less parcels from a destination. Okay, then let's make sure that the truck that drives by this to pick it up, it also moves to some of the other customers that they have web shops on their warehouses nearby, so you can use it to optimize it. But the reason it's called optimization is that when it's only built on partial data about your own internal world as well as the external world, then you cannot really use it to get a better market position. So you can't use it to understand which segments do we win when we win, what should we aim for, what is the long-term price positioning that we're doing. So that is it. Then let's
Yes.
try to jump on to sorry, Peter, go ahead.
Just a follow-up comment on what you said. It's just if you're not connected to the world outside of your own organization, you may be optimizing your own product portfolio, but you're not seeing that other web shops where you're not connected to that data or to what they're doing, that they're getting even more value out of other products, other categories. So you might say that you have a growth of 5 or 10% and say that's really good. But if your competitors are growing 10%, you're not performing as good as you could.
Yeah.
So,
that's a good point. And actually, when you say that, then something that we do see that some do using their own internal data, some of the more advanced here, not everyone, but some of the more advanced, they would predict to do predictions of what stock should they have in specific product categories. Imagine that you are a fashion company and then you can see that it goes in the right direction. Over the year, you would actually need to have more shorts in the summertime, and there's also a structural trend towards that. So you can build these predictive models saying that you should have this amount of jeans and shirts and whatever it is at this part of the year. However, if you don't factor in the fact that there might be other competitors that move into the market because you don't see it, or there is a structural shift in the demand away from the short shorts towards the long shorts, then your own internal data here can actually misguide you a bit. So you overstock at the wrong time. You have too many of those because you don't see what's going on in the competition. It also means that you are not able to know, okay, we actually have this product here, it's performing well in this market, let's say in Poland, but now we actually see a predictive growth in the same product category in the Netherlands. So maybe you actually lose on opportunities as well at the same time. So that's why it's only optimization, right? So you would only be able to optimize based on your own internal knowledge, but it doesn't help you on your strategy. And then you mentioned a few times, Peter, that we talk about the global ecosystem here, and here's what we call the tactical potential. What kind of data systems do companies have that are not siloed? Can you put some words on that?
Yeah. Well, we see some of our more advanced and most successful customers that use data. What they do here is often to combine their own data within an organization. That could be volumes data, sales data, or, also hit rate data, stuff like that, are connected to, for example, our market data, where we go out and see how is the rest of the market looking like. That is where they can start to see not only how they're performing within their own segment, also how they're performing compared to competitors, and start to make it more relative. So they start to really get a better understanding of which segments, which products are they performing good in, and where is it they can tactically get some improvements. I would also say that now we only have 2 dimensions in this one. Usually when we see companies in this quadrant, we see a much more advanced use of data than we saw in the first one, where it was a cost center. Here it's usually pretty advanced already with some more advanced analysis, and also a wish to move further on this one.
Yeah. And so sometimes when we see companies engage in this, then they build a kind of a central intelligence hub, at least on the left side of this quadrant. And then when they connect it to the external world, they connect it to that central intelligence hub. So they know everything, or basically they try to know everything. And then we call it tactical, because here means that, okay, now we can actually see more is going on over here. Okay, let's move our resources over here. Or there's an opportunity in this market because it's already growing. Okay, let's make sure that we do these investments. So it's also a kind of optimization, but it's more on a tactical level.
It's also reflecting on that. Also, a much better connection between the teams within an organization. So that means if tactical, strategical, and analytical team gets insights, takes decisions, it's easier to actually put those decisions and action down to the one who's actually doing the day-to-day work. So, for example, we have customers that they would make playbooks based on the data they see, and then they push that out to the organization, so they get a much more uniform and much better, much more coherent market approach in this spot.
Yeah, and then they don't end up discussing, right? Like, is this right or wrong, or is this no, your data is inaccurate? So they don't end up in this analysis paralysis. So they actually have one source of truth here. I was just thinking, are there some downsides or some risks when you introduce this thinking, making a central intelligence hub? Is there? I would say sometimes there's a risk if it's very central, and I hope I don't become like somebody from IT becomes mad at me when I say this, but some people in the business lines, they would say that IT and central staff people, they're like not so connected to the business problems. Do we see that sometimes, or are there other downsides or risks that you should overcome in this transition here?
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons why we still say this is not what a strategic advantage. So even though you've made these playbooks, you have made these sort of decisions from the central hub, they still need to be put into action by other people who have not made these decisions. As you say, we sometimes see a gap between these. So an example could be that an organization somewhere, a strategy team takes a decision: we want to win this part of the market, and then that is put into playbooks and it's delivered down to a team, but then the execution is not strong enough. So the actual execution, where, for example, a sales team go out, try to win this segment, is not strong enough. It's still not focused enough. It's because it's unclear how does this actually, what should I actually do with this playbook. There's still many decisions and day-to-day actions that are not clear yet to necessarily clear.
Yeah, and when you mentioned that, you also alluded a bit to the fact that how do we embed it in the work and the routines, right? Because at this level here, even though it's enterprise and even connected to the ecosystem, it's still on reporting and analysis level. And it might be that you make some decisions, but how do we actually make sure that it becomes something that you use practically? And here it is that we actually come into you can call the agentic world, right, Peter, where we talk about this data and intelligence as a strategic resource where it has high business value. Now, what does it mean? What is this? This is the most advanced quadrant of these in our minds.
Yeah, and still for many the holy grail, I would say. So if you're not there yet, I would say, don't worry, strive to get there, but not many are already there now. There's several dimensions to this. So if we stick to this strategy execution gap we were talking a bit before now, right? So in the other tactical potential, we had this: how do I actually act with individual companies when I do outreach based on this playbook, for example? Because you still have to connect that playbook, that report, to data or insights about the individual company. Now you're up here where you're so advanced, so you have agents handling much of this. So here's the strategy. This is how your potential lead looks like. This is then the connection between these two. This is how well it fits with the playbook you've done. This is how you should reach out to them to win it. So that's one dimension to it. Another dimension is that when we start to make predictive models, we go away from looking backwards, but actually looking into what will actually be the impact. So if I, for example, have I can choose between two products, I can choose between two actions today, which one would generate the most sales, would generate the most value for me. So there, you start to be able to make those strategic decisions based on database expectations on the future, what will happen. Um, we haven't written prescriptive on this one yet, right? But this is also ultimately the goal. What should you do, right? So this is what we're striving for.
Yeah, so what you're saying here is that since we can predict what will happen, it could be, for instance, we know from some customers that if they are in first position, we can actually see in the checkout. We know that they will have an uplift in the number of parcels, and if so, that is some of the things that we can see. So if they then can identify the ones that might have big chance to win the first position in, then they can actually predict how will that impact the revenue and everything in a good way. But to do that, they also need to know it by having the world outside in look instead of the inside outlook, and then they can embed that. And what you're talking about when you talk about this strategy execution gap is I've also been trying my best out as business leader for many years, and it's also we make this great strategy. Hopefully now the great strategy is based on market data and insights and intelligence, like you can do with Tempi, right? What is the pricing for this kind of shipment in this market if you're a last mile carrier, or how are the out of home developing compared to other stuff and stuff like that. So you can do a proper assessment, but then you make some decisions and then you want the team to execute it. And then the agents come in and actually narrows that down, because now we can fuel them with all that intelligence. So they would take focus, if it's a sales team or if it's a key account team, they would focus on the ones that would have high predictive chance of winning and high predictive chance of more profitability. And they don't have to rely on their own internal knowledge about that. How many you said? But you said that it was not everybody that was up there. But we do see some things going on, isn't that correct?
We do see companies trying to build up agentic workflows where they combine our data and combine their own data to take some of these decisions. So basically, taking in both data from our side, their side, build a model that sort of predicts the impact on different actions and let that take the decision. That's one of the things we see right now from some of our last mile customers. We're still waiting to see actual results and impact from it, but that's some of the most advanced I've seen with what we've done with.
Yeah. We also know in retail that there's this concept around autonomous category management that is also going on, and that is because if you managing categories like shirts or fashion or shoes or electronics or something like that, then you have people sitting and doing that, and they might have hundreds of products in that category, or tens or even hundreds of brands in that category. So they have to monitor that, and they have thousands of competitors on the online market, and that's practically impossible. But fueling this information, how's it going with this category? How's it go? Which brands are trending? What are the optimal price levels? All these kind of things from the outside world, and maybe combining that with your own ERP system about where can we have a high margin, a good profitability, that kind of thing. It can actually put your organization on steroids. And I think, and because now we're actually a bit back to the first slide that we came into, this internal data system is something that can help organizations if they do it well. However, everything about the market that is going on outside of your organization, the pricing, positioning, and everything, whether it's last mile or it's retail or e-commerce, or whether you are a manufacturer, how do you, with your clothes or your shoes or your electronics, how should they be priced compared to everything else, right? And then we can connect that directly to your systems, so you make sure that you can have the right product available at the right time. And then you can even make that happening. But it means that you need to connect these two worlds, and I think at least that's the future we see here in Tempe. And that's why we talk about this as an intelligence infrastructure, something you can't get out of. You need to be in this. There are two ways moving forward: reacting and hoping that you react fast enough, or proacting on this, and that's where the opportunities are. But then you need to know what's going on, right?
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. You have to open up to these global data ecosystem to take better decisions, to act better, but also let agents interact with you, so you become a viable option for whatever that agent wants to do.
Yeah. And I think the good news, if you're a leader in this area, or if you're a manager in this area, and you're good at using data analytics to do proper strategic decisions, then that can actually be really fast translated to the teams. So you risk this friction, and that's what you called strategy execution gap before. That you don't need to, hey Peter, why don't you do as I said, right? Oh, because I didn't know what you said, Christian. I didn't fully understand it. Now we can actually, or I didn't want to because I think it was not like the right decision. All these kind of things that happens in organizations. But now that it can actually be, if everything on that ladder, so to speak, from the strategic level all the way down to the operational, can be much more effective. But it also means that the salespeople and the key account managers or the category managers, that they can work much more effective, bringing them hopefully more commission, better sales to the team that they work in, and better performance of the company, all these kind of things, because they don't have to sit and do a lot of the manual work. They don't even have to be a customer themselves trying to analyze and pull out data from their own Salesforce or Dynamics, or what kind of CRM system they're having.
Yeah, and also just on a personal level, for each individual, it's a lot of frustration to sit and work with poor data, with low hit rates, with high churn, and so there are many benefits to doing this. And it's not that difficult. I will not pretend it's easy. It's a big task, but it's something you need to do, and it's becoming more and more available, and it's something you can actually strive for now.
Yeah, true. Thank you for these perspectives, Peter. It was a great half hour we had right here, right now. For everyone that joined outside, you know where to find us. It's www.tempe.io. And you are, of course, also more than welcome to reach out to me or to Peter Sonholm, either if you are a potential customer, if you're a potential employee, or if you're a current customer that wants to see how can we leverage these things. That's we always here to help everyone to be part of that transition that we think our society is going through. So thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure having you, and thank you for the contribution from the front line, Peter. It's a good
Thank
story.
you. It's been a pleasure.
Have a good day, everyone. Bye bye.